In the heart of Italy, scarred by the ravages of World War II, the once vibrant streets of a small town now lay silent. The grand piazzas, filled with the echoes of a forgotten normalcy, stand desolate. War has left its indelible mark, with buildings scarred by shrapnel and walls that bear the stories of strife. Empty cafes, which once echoed with laughter and lively conversations, now hold only the whispers of memories. Along the cobbled streets, the remnants of a daily life disrupted by war are evident. A child's abandoned toy, newspapers fluttering in the wind, and flags hanging listlessly. The air, though still, is heavy with the anticipation of what the next day might bring in these uncertain times. As the first light of dawn breaks over the war-torn landscape, a young army corporal steps off the military transport, his boots touching Italian soil for the first time. The early morning sun casts long shadows, accentuating the mix of apprehension and determination on his face. He carries not just his military gear, but also the weight of a profound responsibility. Around him, the bustling activity of the military encampment contrasts sharply with the stillness of the nearby town. Soldiers go about their duties, a stark reminder of the ongoing conflict. Yet there's a glimmer of youthful optimism in the corporal's eyes, a silent hope that perhaps, in this land of ancient history and enduring beauty, he might find something beyond the confines of war. The corporal's name is Marco Rossi. Night falls over the encampment, casting a serene stillness that belies the turmoil of war. In the solitude of his makeshift quarters, Marco sits, his silhouette outlined by the dim glow of a single lantern. His thoughts wander to home, to the family and life he left behind, their faces a blur in his memory. He ponders the reasons that brought him here, to this foreign land steeped in history and now scarred by conflict. His fingers trace the letters of a worn photograph, a memento of a past life. Outside, the distant sounds of the night, a rustling of leaves, a distant conversation, remind him of the ever-present reality of war. In these quiet moments, he finds himself grappling with the duality of his role as a soldier and his own personal convictions, a reflection of the inner conflict that mirrors the external world. With each passing day, Marco finds a rhythm in the monotonous routine of military life. He wakes with the first light, joining his fellow soldiers for the morning drills. The training ground is alive with the sounds of orders being shouted and boots hitting the ground in unison. There's a camaraderie among the men, born from shared hardship and the unspoken understanding of their common plight. During brief moments of respite, Marco can be seen jotting down thoughts in a small weathered journal, a personal haven amidst the chaos. The canteen bustles with activity during mealtimes, filled with laughter and stories, a temporary escape from the realities of war. Yet, in the corporal's eyes, there lingers a sense of detachment, a reflection of his inner conflict, as he ponders the deeper meaning of the war and his part in it. In an unremarkable moment, amid the ordinariness of his daily routine, Marco's life changes unexpectedly. While patrolling the quiet streets of the town, he catches a fleeting glimpse of a young woman. She moves quickly, almost ghost-like, through the narrow alleyways, her presence barely noticeable. Yet there's something about her, perhaps the way the sunlight catches her hair or her cautious yet graceful demeanor, that captivates him. She seems like a mirage, an embodiment of the life and beauty that the war has all but erased. For a brief moment, their eyes meet. It's a glance that lasts only a second, but it feels like an eternity. In that instant, a connection is made, an unspoken recognition of shared humanity in a world torn apart by conflict. Marco stands motionless, haunted by her image, as she disappears into the labyrinth of the ancient city. In the midst of the relentless rhythm of war, there is one thought that continuously occupies the mind of Corporal Marco Rossi. Since the day he first saw the young Jewish woman, her name is actually Elena Cohen, he would later find out. Each day, Marco patrols the ancient, winding streets of the Italian town, his eyes searching every corner, every shadow, for a glimpse of Elena. The fleeting encounter, where their eyes met in a moment of silent understanding, has kindled a flame of curiosity and longing within him. At dusk, Marco often finds solitude on the rooftop of his barracks, the city's historic skyline stretching before him. Here, under the vast, starlit sky, he ponders over Elena's life, her fears, her dreams, the strength she must possess to survive in such turbulent times. She has become, in his mind, a symbol of the beauty and resilience of the human spirit, a stark contrast to the backdrop of war that has enveloped their lives. The ordinary rhythm of war-torn life takes an unexpected turn when Marco, during one of his routine patrols, finds himself in the bustling heart of the local market. Amidst the vendors and the townspeople bartering for goods, his gaze is unexpectedly drawn to a familiar figure. It's Elena, moving gracefully through the crowd, her presence like a ray of light in the dim hustle of the marketplace. Their eyes meet again, this time amidst the chaos of everyday life, a fleeting connection that sends a jolt through Marco's heart. Elena's gaze is quick but intense, filled with a mix of recognition and caution. As quickly as she appears, she's lost again in the sea of faces, leaving Marco amidst the crowd, his heart racing, the momentary encounter leaving a profound impact on him. In the days following their encounter at the market, Marco finds himself consumed with thoughts of Elena. His curiosity about her grows stronger, compelling him to seek out more about her life. Discreetly, he begins to ask around, posing cautious questions to the local townspeople. His inquiries are subtle, laced with a fear of drawing too much attention, yet driven by an undeniable urge to know more. The townspeople, wary of strangers and the ongoing conflict, offer little at first. But bit by bit, Marco learns of Elena's resilience, her struggle to stay hidden in plain sight, and the quiet strength she carries. Each piece of information adds to the complexity of her image in his mind, deepening the mystery that surrounds her. Elena moves with a quiet grace, always aware of her surroundings, her every step a delicate dance of caution and courage. In the small attic room where she takes refuge, the walls are adorned with faded photographs and drawings, remnants of a life once filled with laughter and love. Despite the constant threat of discovery, Elena finds small ways to maintain her dignity and humanity. She's seen helping an elderly neighbor with groceries, her movements quick but kind, a fleeting smile shared in solidarity. At night, she gazes out of a small window, her eyes reflecting the starlit sky, lost in thoughts of a world beyond the war. In these moments, her resilience and quiet strength are palpable, painting a picture of a woman who, despite the horrors surrounding her, clings to hope and the dream of a better tomorrow. As the war rages on, Marco finds himself increasingly torn between his duties as a soldier and the unexpected feelings he harbors for Elena. His days are filled with routine military tasks, but his mind is elsewhere, consumed by thoughts of Elena and the glimpses he's had of her life. In the quiet hours of the night, Marco wrestles with his conscience, the weight of his uniform feeling heavier with each passing day. He's seen pacing the confines of his room, a look of deep conflict etched on his face. His loyalty to his country and his role as a soldier clash with the empathy and connection he feels towards Elena, a woman caught in the crossfire of a war she didn't choose. In a moment of solitude, Marco stares at his reflection in a small, tarnished mirror, questioning the path he's on and the choices he must make. The war outside is relentless, but it's the war within Marco that proves to be the most challenging. As the war continues, Marco and Elena find ways to meet in secret, each rendezvous shrouded in danger and uncertainty. Their meetings are brief and always hidden away from prying eyes, in the shadows of an abandoned building, in the quiet of a moonlit garden, or under the guise of a bustling street market. In these stolen moments, they share whispers of their lives, dreams, and fears. The world around them fades into a blur as they find solace in each other's company. Marco listens intently to Elena's stories of her life before the war, her family, and her hopes for the future. In turn, Elena learns about Marco's hometown, his journey to becoming a soldier, and the doubts that now plague him. Despite the war that rages around them, in these fleeting encounters, they find a sense of peace and understanding, a temporary escape from the chaos of the outside world. In one of their clandestine meetings, Marco and Elena discover a shared passion for art, a thread of common interest that deepens their connection. They find themselves in a secluded attic, a hidden sanctuary amidst the chaos of war, where Elena has kept her collection of art supplies. The walls of the attic are adorned with her sketches and paintings, glimpses into her soul and her life before the war. Under the dim light of an old lamp, they spend hours talking about art, their favorite artists, and the stories behind each of Elena's creations. Marco, though not an artist himself, is captivated by Elena's talent and the way her eyes light up as she talks about her passion. He even tries his hand at sketching under her guidance, finding a new form of expression in the strokes of the pencil. In this artistic oasis, they escape the war outside, if only for a moment, immersing themselves in a world of creativity and shared dreams. In the quiet haven of the attic, surrounded by the remnants of a world untouched by war, Marco and Elena share a moment that transcends the chaos outside. As they sit close, surrounded by canvases and paintbrushes, the conversation gradually fades, and a profound silence envelops them. The air is thick with unspoken emotions and a palpable tension. Slowly, almost hesitantly, they turn towards each other, their eyes locking in a moment of deep understanding and vulnerability. The distance between them diminishes until, in a tender, almost reverent gesture, they share their first kiss. It's a kiss that speaks of longing, of the fragility of the moment, and of a connection that has grown beyond mere words. For Marco and Elena, this kiss marks a turning point, a silent acknowledgement of the feelings that have been quietly growing between them. It's a moment of beauty and defiance, a fleeting escape from the harsh realities of their world. In the stillness of a serene night, Marco and Elena find themselves under the canopy of a starlit sky. They sit on a secluded bench in a deserted park, the world around them silent except for the whispers of the night breeze. As they talk, their voices are low, their words a mixture of dreams and solemn promises. Marco speaks of his longing for a life away from the battlefield, a life where fear and violence are distant memories. Elena, with a hopeful glint in her eyes, shares her dreams of freedom and a return to a peaceful existence, perhaps in a place far from the scars of war. Together, they dare to imagine a future, a world where they could be together without the shadow of danger looming over them. Their conversation is a delicate dance of hope and realism, each understanding the fragility of their situation yet unwilling to let go of the dream they've begun to weave together. As the night deepens, they make a silent promise to each other, a promise to hold on to the hope of a better tomorrow, no matter what the morning may bring. The fragile world that Marco and Elena have built begins to tremble as their secret is inadvertently exposed. It starts with hushed whispers among the townspeople, then grows into suspicious glances from Marco's fellow soldiers. The tension escalates when a local informant, driven by fear and the promise of reward, reports their clandestine meetings to the authorities. The news of their forbidden relationship quickly reaches the military command, casting a dark cloud over their fleeting moments of happiness. Marco and Elena find themselves suddenly thrust into a vortex of danger, their meetings now a matter of scrutiny and risk. In one particularly heart-wrenching scene, they are torn apart during a surprise military raid. The chaos is overwhelming, with soldiers storming their usual meeting spot, shouts filling the air, and the two lovers separated in the confusion. Marco is left in the grasp of his comrades, his eyes searching desperately for Elena, who is whisked away into the shadows, her fate uncertain. The discovery of their relationship marks a poignant end to their moments of stolen peace, propelling them both into an uncertain future. The revelation of Marco's relationship with Elena sends shockwaves through the military ranks. His loyalty is now under question, and the atmosphere around him becomes increasingly hostile. One of his fellow soldiers, a once close comrade named Luca, confronts him in the barracks. The confrontation is tense, filled with accusations and disbelief. Luca, embodying the sentiment of many in their unit, questions Marco's integrity and his commitment to their cause. "How could you risk everything for her?" he demands, his voice a mix of anger and betrayal. Marco, cornered and defensive, struggles to articulate the depth of his feelings for Elena, how she represents a world beyond the war, a glimpse of what they are all fighting for. The exchange is heated, with other soldiers gathering around, some in support of Luca, others unsure of where to stand. The confrontation escalates until their commanding officer intervenes, demanding order. Marco is left isolated, the divide between him and his fellow soldiers now glaringly apparent. This confrontation marks a turning point for Marco, as he realizes the true cost of his secret love. As word of their forbidden relationship spreads, Marco and Elena find themselves in an increasingly perilous situation. Their every move is now fraught with danger, and the risks of their secret meetings escalate. Despite this, they continue to meet, their resolve strengthened by the challenges they face. Each encounter is a calculated risk, taken in the shadows of a city that has become both their refuge and their prison. Their moments together are charged with a sense of urgency, a palpable tension born of the knowledge that each meeting could be their last. Elena, once cautious and reserved, now moves with a sense of boldness, driven by her feelings for Marco. Marco, in turn, is more vigilant than ever, constantly watching over his shoulder, his soldier's instincts heightened. The couple is aware that the eyes of the town and possibly the military are upon them, turning their love into a defiant act of resistance against the constraints of war. In a dimly lit room, away from the watchful eyes of the world, Marco and Elena sit together, a map spread out before them. Their conversation is hushed but intense as they make a daring plan to escape. Elena points to a quiet coastal town she knows, far from the war's reach, where they might find refuge. Marco, his face a mixture of hope and concern, calculates the risks, considering every detail. They speak of false identities, hidden routes, and the perilous journey they must undertake. In these moments, their bond deepens, united by a shared dream of freedom and a life together. Their plan is fraught with uncertainty, but it's a risk they're willing to take to be free of the war's shadow. As they lean over the map, their fingers occasionally touch, a silent reassurance amidst the fear of the unknown. Their decision to escape is not just an act of desperation, it is a testament to their love, a love that has become their beacon in the darkest of times. In the solitude of his quarters, Marco sits with his military uniform laid out before him. His eyes trace the medals and insignia, symbols of a soldier's duty and honor, now sources of profound inner conflict. The room is silent except for the soft rustling of papers as Marco pens a letter of farewell. In it, he expresses his disillusionment with the war and his unwillingness to be a part of the conflict any longer. The decision to desert is not made lightly. It's a choice that weighs heavily on his conscience. As he folds the uniform for the last time, a mix of relief and apprehension fills him. He's aware of the gravity of his decision, the risks, and the potential consequences. But his love for Elena and the dream of a life free from the shadows of war propel him forward. The scene closes with Marco taking one last look around the room, a silent goodbye to a part of his life that he's leaving behind. He steps out into the night, the letter left behind on his bed, his steps resolute yet heavy with the uncertainty of the path he has chosen. The precarious world that Marco and Elena have carefully built begins to unravel rapidly. Unbeknownst to them, their plans of escape have been compromised. In a cruel twist of fate, their trusted confidant, swayed by fear and pressure from the authorities, betrays them. The night that was supposed to mark the beginning of their journey to freedom turns into a nightmare. As they meet under the cover of darkness to commence their escape, they are ambushed. Military police, along with local law enforcement, storm their meeting place. The scene is chaotic. Shouts fill the air, and the sound of running feet echoes through the streets. Marco and Elena are torn apart in the turmoil. Marco tries desperately to reach Elena, to protect her, but he is restrained and taken into custody. Elena, her eyes wide with shock and fear, is led away by another group of officers. Their plans, their dreams, and their hopes are shattered in these moments. The heart-wrenching separation leaves Marco with a sense of despair and helplessness as Elena disappears into the night, her fate unknown and their future together more uncertain than ever. In the bleak confines of a military holding cell, Marco finds himself imprisoned and isolated. The stark walls and the cold, hard floor are a far cry from the world he knew. He sits alone, his thoughts a tumultuous mix of regret, fear, and concern for Elena. The reality of his actions and the consequences he now faces weigh heavily upon him. His uniform, once worn with pride, now lies discarded in a corner of the cell, a symbol of a past he has chosen to leave behind. Marco reflects on the moments he shared with Elena, their plans and the dreams they dared to nurture. These memories are both a source of pain and a flicker of hope in the darkness of his current situation. The silence of the cell is oppressive, broken only by the distant sounds of the barracks and the occasional footsteps of a guard. In this solitude, Marco grapples with the uncertainty of his future and the fate of the woman he loves, each passing moment an echo of the life that seems to be slipping away from his grasp. In the wake of the raid and subsequent separation from Marco, Elena finds herself constantly on the move, evading capture in the war-torn city. Her once cautious demeanor has transformed into one of relentless determination. She moves through the shadows, using her intimate knowledge of the city to avoid detection. By day, she blends into the crowds, her face partially hidden beneath a scarf, her eyes always alert. At night, she takes refuge in forgotten places, abandoned buildings, empty warehouses, anywhere she can find momentary safety. In these hideouts, Elena plans her next steps, always one step ahead of those pursuing her. Her resilience is remarkable, a testament to her will to survive and her hope of reuniting with Marco. Despite the danger and uncertainty, she clings to the memories of their time together, using them as a beacon in her darkest moments. The scene captures Elena's strength and her ability to adapt in the face of adversity, painting a portrait of a woman who refuses to be broken by the circumstances she faces. In a twist of fate, Elena encounters an unexpected ally, offering a glimmer of hope in her precarious situation. This ally, a sympathetic local named Giuseppe, recognizes Elena one evening as she seeks shelter. Giuseppe, a quiet and unassuming baker, has long disapproved of the war and its effects on his beloved city. He offers Elena refuge in a hidden room above his bakery, a safe haven amidst the danger. In this modest sanctuary, they share hushed conversations, where Giuseppe reveals his quiet resistance to the war and his efforts to help others in need. Elena, wary at first, gradually comes to trust Giuseppe, finding solace in his kindness and understanding. Their alliance is one of mutual respect, a small act of defiance against the overwhelming tide of war. In the safety of the bakery, Elena regains her strength and begins to plan her next move, bolstered by the support of her newfound friend. In a dim and secluded room, Elena and her newfound ally, Giuseppe, stand over a sprawled map, plotting a daring rescue. The room, lit only by a flickering candle, holds an air of conspiracy and urgency. Elena, with a determined look, points to a section of the map, outlining a stealthy route to the military detention where Marco is held. Giuseppe, with his intimate knowledge of the city's hidden paths, suggests discreet alleyways and unguarded passages for their risky endeavor. Their voices are low but firm, understanding the perilous nature of the mission they are about to undertake. Elena's resolve is palpable. She's driven by an unwavering desire to reunite with Marco, to tear him away from the clutches of war. Giuseppe, though apprehensive about the risks, is committed to aiding her, moved by her courage and the bond she shares with Marco. Together they refine their plan, considering every possibility, every risk. The stakes are high, and they know that the slightest miscalculation could lead to disaster. Yet the hope of bringing Marco back, of rekindling the love that war has tried to extinguish, fuels their determination. Under the cover of night, Elena and Giuseppe set their meticulously planned rescue into motion. The streets are eerily quiet as they navigate through the city, avoiding well-known checkpoints and taking hidden back alleys. The tension is palpable. Every shadow and sound seems amplified in the stillness of the night. As they approach the military holding area, their movements become more cautious, their communication reduced to silent gestures. Giuseppe's contacts have provided them with crucial information about guard rotations and security weaknesses, which they exploit with precision. The scene is fraught with suspense as they infiltrate the facility, moving like shadows through the dimly lit corridors. Elena's heart pounds in her chest, a mix of fear and hope driving her forward. They are close now, so close to reaching Marco. But the danger is ever present, the risk of discovery looming over them like a dark cloud. Every step they take is a gamble, each moment a balance between hope and despair. In the dimly lit confines of the military holding facility, amidst the danger and fear, a moment of profound emotion unfolds. Against all odds, Elena and Giuseppe manage to locate Marco. The reunion is intense and charged with emotion. Marco, weary and disheveled from his time in captivity, is initially disoriented by their sudden appearance. But as recognition dawns, a look of disbelief and relief washes over his face. The reunion is brief but powerful. Words are unnecessary, as their eyes and embraces convey volumes. Elena's eyes fill with tears, a mix of joy and the pain of seeing Marco in such a state. Giuseppe keeps watch, aware that every second they linger increases the danger. The air is thick with a mix of desperation and hope. They must leave quickly, but this moment of reunion, however fleeting, rekindles the flame of hope in their hearts. It's a poignant reminder of what they are fighting for, a chance at a life together, free from the shadows of war. Their reunion, though brief, reignites a spark of hope. But this moment of joy is quickly overshadowed by the reality of their situation. As they make their escape from the holding facility, the sound of alarms pierces the night. The facility bursts into chaotic activity. Soldiers scramble, orders are shouted, and the search for the escapees begins. Marco, Elena, and Giuseppe navigate through the labyrinth of the city's streets, their every step fraught with peril. The once familiar cityscape now feels like a maze designed to entrap them. They dart through alleys and across courtyards, the sounds of their pursuers never far behind. The tension is thick, each turn and corner holding the potential for capture. Despite their exhaustion and fear, they push forward, driven by the slim hope of freedom. The city, under the cover of darkness, becomes a stage for their desperate flight, a test of their resolve, and their willingness to risk everything for a chance at a life together. After a harrowing escape through the city's maze-like streets, Marco, Elena, and Giuseppe find a momentary haven in an abandoned warehouse at the city's edge. Exhausted and breathless, they huddle in the shadows, the dim moonlight filtering through broken windows. In this fleeting sanctuary, they catch their breath, their hearts still racing from the close pursuit. The warehouse, with its dust-covered floors and echoes of a long-forgotten industrial past, offers a brief escape from the relentless chase. Marco and Elena share a quiet embrace, a wordless exchange of comfort and solidarity. Giuseppe keeps a watchful eye on the entrance, his mind racing with plans for their next move. Despite the danger that still lurks outside, this moment of respite allows them to gather their strength and prepare for the next leg of their journey. The silence of the warehouse is a stark contrast to the chaos of the city, providing a much-needed pause in their flight. For now, they are safe, but the uncertainty of what the dawn will bring hangs heavily in the air. As dawn begins to break, casting a pale light over the city, Marco, Elena, and Giuseppe realize they can no longer hide. The discovery of their hideout is imminent, and they must make a stand. In the dim light of the early morning, they prepare for what may come, their faces set with determination. Marco takes a protective stance in front of Elena, while Giuseppe readies himself by the entrance, a makeshift weapon in hand. They are outnumbered and outgunned, but their resolve to fight for their freedom and for each other is unwavering. The tension is palpable as they hear the distant sounds of their pursuers approaching. In these moments, the bonds of love and friendship forged in the crucible of war are more evident than ever. They stand together, united in their defiance, ready to face the consequences of their choices. The scene captures the essence of their struggle, not just against the physical enemy, but against the circumstances that have brought them to this point. As the first light of day illuminates the warehouse, they brace for the confrontation, their final stand in a war that has taken so much from them. The war's end brings a fragile peace to the Italian town, now scarred, yet hopeful. In the streets, people begin the slow process of rebuilding. Among them walks Marco, changed by the war and memories of Elena. His gaze, laden with loss and resilience, reflects on their shared past and her unknown fate. A memorial service gathers the community in the town square, a tribute to those lost. Marco, amidst the crowd, honors their memory, his heart heavy with unspoken goodbyes. As he lays flowers, there's a sense of collective mourning and quiet hope for the future. The scene closes with a sunset over the town, symbolizing an end to the darkness of war and the dawn of a new beginning.